Hello everybody, I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, or as the cool kids say, I'm a sufferer of substance use disorder. And just to sort of talk about the weekend, Sunday we're going to, just working backwards, we're going to look at the 12 traditions from a freethinker's point of view. Is AA something we're trying to preserve in the likeness of our forefathers and foremothers? Hello! Or is AA something that we are entrusted to prepare for the new woman or man still to come? And how well do those traditions serve us in an internet age? How well are those traditions going to serve a millennial generation whose first drink was on Facebook, who's, most, like, I'm just so glad, if I told you my AA story now, that there was no Facebook. Yeah. I mean, there were times, right? I woke up in the hospital and I couldn't check my phone to find out how I got from the high school dance to there. Right, that would have been kind of helpful, right? I was in a blackout for several hours, but to those kids to tell them, okay, welcome to AA, no more communicating with the outside world, right? Like it just, like how are we going to maintain the integrity of these traditions in a sort of modern setting? So we're going to have a discussion about that. It's not going to be a lecture. I'll throw out some ideas, and we'll have a little round table. And really review what is sacred and what is forbidden. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe there's nothing sacred and nothing forbidden, that anything is possible in our free-thinking recovery program. Tomorrow we're going to be going through all of the steps, again, from a free-thinking point of view, looking at I would put it this way. There's a lot of talk about how the original 100 alcoholics got sober. I think that's useful information, and I don't poo-poo people who are charmed by it and focus on it. But what is more useful to the newcomer, I believe, would be how did the last 100 people get clean and sober? And what did they do? What were the words they used? What was the language of the heart spoken eyeball to eyeball? Forget about what was written in 1939. Not that that isn't a value, but to the newcomer, right? How are these steps, either the principles or the words themselves, going to serve, the next 100 newcomers that come to our fellowship? And so we're going to be, that's going to be very much sort of the workshop day. And today is going to be just kind of the attitude adjustment. I'm from Canada, and we don't have senators. We have ministers in charge of different portfolios. So we've got a minister of health, and we've got a minister of Indigenous affairs. We've got a minister of this and that. And almost all of the ministers, their job is to comfort the inflicted. It's kind of a nice job to be able to do that. Except for the minister of finance. His job is to inflict the comfortable. And so tonight, I'm going to try to inflict the comfortable a little bit, right? Just get us all, wherever we come from, a little bit outside of our comfort zone in terms of this idea of what is sacred, what is forbidden, and how it's supposed to be. And so I've got some things to talk about there. But I just want to, I'm going to start in Cottonwood here. And we're just going to go around and we've already got towns, but just a little bit about what got you from where you came to here and what your hopes and expectations are for this weekend, because we can adjust accordingly.
I'm Kat Little Creek. I'm an alcoholic.
And Kat says she wanted to hide in the background and not say.
That's true, and so you call on me first. I love it, Joe. Yeah, I'm one of those people who does hide in the background and study all of you guys and make sure that you're all cool and safe before I open my mouth. What are my expectations for this weekend? I really don't have any strong expectations. I love your book, and I have concerns about Alcoholics Anonymous and where it's at today, and the younger people, because I have contact periodically with younger people, and I see them struggling with our language, with the absolutes that are put out there, the God stuff, because a lot of them aren't there. They're just not there. And let's face it, how many of us when we got here were looking for an excuse not to stay?
Yeah.
Not to stay. And I really hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will meander toward making it more comfortable for all generations, not just the old, only alcoholics. I know there's a singleness of purpose that's talked about in AA, but I don't know how many people are not duly addicted anymore. A lot of us, a whole lot of us have that problem, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what is everybody's going to have to say about all that, and that's enough. Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm John. I'm an average alcoholic.
Hi, John.
Hey, John.
I'm really happy to be here, and I don't know. I just thought it'd be nice to show up and see what everybody has to say about this stuff. I have concerns on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. Reading some of the stuff that I read on Facebook from atheists, agnostics, and free thinkers, I wonder how free thinking some people are. And then interacting with some of the people in more traditional AA, I wonder how open-minded they could possibly be. And I kind of have some concerns about that. But, I was raised in traditional AA. I'm one of those old farts now. That seems kind of absurd that that's true, but it is. And I have struggled through all the God stuff and all of that stuff over the many years, and so a lot of it for me is about fellowship and just being able to have some fellowship and some connection with at least similarly, if not like-minded people.
Thanks, John.
Adele, alcoholic.
Hi, Adele.
A bunch of other stuff too. I'm so glad to be here. I have a great curiosity about a completely different approach, and I want to be a more effective member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I believe in inclusion rather than exclusion, without exception. I don't believe there's an exception there. We have a wonderful structure, somewhat, and but no exiles. So, and I've just been, I think when I really met you, I've really started, I'm a ponderer, I really started noticing my own arrogance on this matter. Because I would not describe myself as an atheist, agnostic, and hopefully, yes, I'm a free thinker, but not so much. So there's that purpose, but really I'm working the steps again, and I notice how I've been as authentic as I could. It has taken a long time for the peels to come down. They're still coming down, but I feel like everything's on the table. All the stuff in the big book was on the table from a spiritual aspect, because I'm told that all the ideas have to go. And I did not want to give up the ones I got when I got to AA. And those, you don't touch those, they're sacrilegious. And then it was pointed out to me that can't be true. So I started doing the questions. Now I'm questioning the conditioning, the spiritual conditioning itself. And And boy, that'll rock one's world. So it's really good. I'm so excited to have this, and I'm really grateful for your participation.
Thanks, Adele.
My name's Kate.
Hi,
I'm
Kate.
an alcoholic.
Hi, Kate.
And I recently started practicing dawn yoga, and that's what brought me to Mongo the first time I came. And that's where I discovered that there was recovery programs here. And I invited my best friend to join me, and so we looked at which ones, and this was just really interesting to be in the conversation of what the 12 steps look like outside of the ideas that I grew up with of God, and enjoyed thoroughly the Beyond Belief book, and so that's why I'm here. I have no expectations. Well, who knows? I've been here before, so I expect the food will be as good as the home is, and the energy here is, But like, what's going to occur with all of us? I'm like open. Whatever. I don't know. And I don't even know that I'm supposed to know. So I think I'm good. I'm not quite sure what free thinking means, but I know I am a thinker. So there's that. That's all I know.
Definition coming.
Hi, I'm Mara Beth. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Mara Beth.
I'm really grateful to be here. Kate and I actually met in kindergarten. And she handed me my first big book, and I was still drinking, and she said, "Here, read this book and tell me what it says." And so, when Kate says, "Let's go to this place," I'm going to this place, right? Like, save my life. Yeah, wherever you go, I'm going. And so really that's why I'm here, And we did look at that schedule, and I'm like, ooh, this is awesome. Let's go be with people and talk about this. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Deeply love Alcoholics Anonymous. I deeply love our big book. I've never run across a pamphlet I didn't like. And I want everybody to come inside, and everybody can't always, for whatever reason. And, I've been in meetings where I'm like, really? I gotta go, just because I just can't. So I would like to, and that's on me, I would like to be able to just sit there and let people say what they have to say about their God and have it mean nothing to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to get there, but I would like to. I don't know what I am, right? I know that my family of origin, I was raised Catholic, and I'm not a Catholic, and I don't have any relationship to any kind of power that would use the pronoun he. So I don't know. That's what I got going on. I laid down on that rock up there, and I felt something awesome. That seems to me like that's gonna work for a while. That's what I got.
Thanks. Where's that rock?
I'm Marianne, alcoholic.
Hi, Marianne.
For those of you visiting from out of state, welcome to Arizona. Beautiful place.
Sure is.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here too. I really don't have a lot of expectations. I just kind of came out as an agnostic a couple of years ago in Austin.
Yeah.
And had a blast in Austin, despite the fact that the timing was sort of weird. It was a lot of grieving going on there.
Yeah.
And I think, after so many years in the program, I was just, if anybody asked me, I would say, oh, that's pretty private stuff, higher power, God talk. That's pretty, I never really came out as an agnostic until just recently. It feels really good. And I think one of the reasons I did was because I heard a woman across the room say, oh, I don't do prayer, but I do meditation. And I thought, and she said she was an agnostic, and I was so excited to hear a woman in a women's meeting where I go all the time address the fact that she was an agnostic at the group level. Mm-hmm. Blew my mind. Mm-hmm. And ever since then I realized, oh my God, maybe there's agnostics in AA, honestly. Mm-hmm. And started going on the internet. Now I'm all hooked on the podcasts and the literature, And I think basically what it comes down to is I started to get uncomfortable when somebody talked about being authentic. I thought, what a phony I am. To that and to thine own self be true. But the main thing that got me in all this reading, it sent me back to our literature. It's like, it's cool because I wanted to see where all the quotes were about widening the gateway.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that responsibility of declaration when anyone, anywhere, reaches out for help. And that got to me in a core level on the people we were, that were turning around and walking out, like Bill talked about in 1960 in the Grapevine.
That's right.
That really hit me hard. So I want to feel more comfortable. I still go to traditional AA. We have 3 agnostic meetings in Tucson, thank God. But traditional. I'm slowly coming out in my traditional meetings, and I want to be able to talk comfortably about it in my traditional AA meetings, and not feel. And so that's one of my personal goals: to feel more comfortable about it, verbalizing it, and identifying myself at the group level in open meetings in my traditional meetings.
Awesome. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if everyone could just be candid, right? Without. I don't mean to offend, like never starting a sentence with I don't mean to offend when you're about to share your innermost truth. Sorry to interject there. You bet. It's a rare privilege. Thank you.
I'm Jamie, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jamie.
I'm trying to think what I want to say. I've been around the program for 40 years. I got to be an old timer once, and then I got to be a newcomer over again. And the very first time, 40 years ago, when I was introduced, dragged to the program, even then I could not stand how dated, sexist, and full of God the big book was. And I had trouble staying in the program for the first time. I didn't like it any better coming back after going out. But one of the questions in my mind, because I had a lot of respect for the old timers, those that were old timers when I was new the first time, who are all deceased now. I had a lot of respect for them. And even though I hated all that, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered me coming back. I just didn't think about it that much then as I did coming back. And big question in my mind, I don't have any expectations this weekend, I'm open to whatever, but one of the big questions I have is, how do we preserve what makes AA work? I mean, the things and the traditions so we don't destroy the program, and at the same time do the things we need to do for this century and for young people. And I don't know how if you don't hang on to something, you don't totally lose what, the things that they learned didn't work. At the same time, change or adapt to the present young people. I mean, I cannot stand big book thumpers. They make me not like the big book, even though there's things in the big book that I want to read and reread. But, these people that tell me how it is and what I should think, and they tell me what page this is on, and they make me crazy. And whenever I go to a big book meeting, and we get to that chapter, To the Wives, or whatever, come on, they're still reading that? It's like this book wasn't, they call it the AA Bible, but it wasn't handed down by God, it was written by human beings, and why are people so afraid to change it? Why are they so afraid to update it? And that drives me crazy. So I don't have any expectations, but I have a lot of questions.
Great. We're going to get a couple answers.
And a lot more questions.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. And my home group is Freedom Thinking Women. So Thursday night, Ocean Vista, come join us. My spiritual path, that said, I've been evolving over the years, and I came in from a traditional religious background growing up, etc. And so when I got in, and had abandoned that long ago, and when I first got sober, that was the only thing I knew to fall back to, So I had to do, because you have to do, and you have to do, and you have to, So I got it, and I picked up the one that, worked for me when I was 12 years old, and that worked for a while. But my whole consciousness in that regard was changing and growing, and I kind of got to the point where I hear the word God, or as it's stated in the big book, different readings or prayers, and I just translate in my head, to my own concept of a higher power, which is not the capital G-O-D or the hymn or the beard or the whatever, any of that stuff, and the 3-in-1, and no. And so people ask, what is free-thinking women, well, what does that mean? Well, I guess if someone has to ask what is free thinking, that would imply that what is not free thinking is rather not free thinking, rather structured and rather dogmatic and rather the same from person to person to person, which is fine in a largely Christian society that we live in the United States and all, but that doesn't apply to everyone, and it doesn't apply to other cultures. It doesn't apply to other people in the world. This is so doggone limiting. And I do want AA to be there for anyone who reaches out for help. And I do work a lot with newcomers, and there are a lot of people I know that are turned off as soon as the Lord's Prayer kicks in. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for someone who's really turned off to that whole concept. And that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about, in my opinion. That's not what our message is. Is not about the label. Yeah, everybody has to believe in the same label. No, I don't. So, anyway, just to expand further on my knowledge, I went to that first. We went up to L.A. to that first agnostics conference out there, which was fabulous. One of the old trustees was commenting on the chapter to the wives.
Yeah.
It was great. He thought it was idiotic. But this is central office. This is GSO talking.
Yeah.
So it's not like any of this stuff is really engraved in concrete. So anyway, I really have no expectations, only to looking to broaden my views, expand my awareness and spiritual state of mind and being and spirit. Thank you. It's great to see you. Love your book. Glad you have some for sale because mine's gone.
Oh.
Gave it away. No, that's what we do.
Good, I mean.
We definitely need another. She absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I was at a meeting in Cottonwood earlier today. They will not give theirs up. I was almost brought to tears by how ragged some of those Beyond Belief books were. It was, Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
I'm Ken Long. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Ken.
Much like my friend over there, I grew up in traditional AA, and I was gung-ho. I've been very, I was raised Catholic, and so I went back to the Catholic Church, and that didn't work, and then I became Jewish. I get confused. And then, and I mean like converted and all that. And then what happened with me is at about 11 years sober, still confused about the God thing, I got a master's in pastoral studies from Loyola University of New Orleans. But in that being graduate level work, I started reading a lot of esoteric stuff, and I started reading Thich Nhat Hanh, right? And then I started exploring a lot of Buddhism because by that point I'd been sober long enough, and I was getting those, the hair standing up type stuff. And it's like, holy shit, where was this, But then reading about it, and it's like, geez, for me, karma, reincarnation, whatever. And then a buddy gave me Stephen Batchelor's Buddhism Without Beliefs, right? And then I found the secular Buddhism thing. And I'm like, oh my God, and then Stoicism and all that. So anyhow, between 11 years and now, I have been able to reinterpret for myself, okay? And I've had a chance to work with a couple of guys. But one of the things I really hope to get out of this weekend is to be how to be more effective, to have the person who comes in off the street and say, you don't have to fake it till you make it, or you don't have to do this, because I've done something that works for me that I'm not really sure how to pass it on. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, and that's why like your Beyond Belief is my go-to. I've got it paperback at the house, Kindle. You know, on the Kindle, I got it on the Kindle app on my phone. And I've been able to share that with people. So I just also want to be effective. You know, for decades, I've had my eyes on those Pew polls about an increasingly secular amount. And even in the middle of the Bible Belt in Alabama, when I go to the Friday night young people's, it's a different world, right? And you tell somebody who's on the beam, you know, like what Jay said, you know, when he was new, you know, find God or die. Dude, they're gone. Right? I mean, okay, see ya, right? And I don't think that's effective, right? You know, and then when I found the internet, like some of you guys said, and I found out, holy cow, I'm not alone. And you know, AA Agnostic, Beyond Belief, Rebellion Dogs. It's like, holy cow, there's other people out there, and we don't have a secular meeting in Montgomery. But I just want people to know in my local area that there's a resource out there, and I want to be as effective as I can be.
Glad you're here.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Catherine, recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Catherine.
Yeah, I started saying that, you know, recovered, and people were like, oh, you can't be recovered. But anyway, well, first page of the big book, you know, it says we are 100 men and women ratio. We have recovered from a seemingly hopeless disease, all that stuff. Anyway, aside from that, I, like a lot of us, felt that the fight was beaten out of me when I got here, and I just pretty much did what everybody told me, you know. But I also had learned to interpret the world and things, you know, to suit me. You know, like reading the big book, every time it says he as an alcoholic, of course I know it meant, or she, you know, and that sort of thing. And I've allowed myself to have an open mind so that my idea of spirituality is something that's always evolved. But nobody ever sat me down and says, you've got to figure it out and you've got to stick to it. Thank goodness, because it wouldn't have worked for me. You know, all I knew is that I wasn't doing well on my own, and I needed to, you know, have an open mind in AA. And so, and I would take a little of this and a little of that from various people, and it worked for a long time. But, and then eventually I became a Buddhist, and I was trying to think, maybe 18 years sober, I'm not sure, but it was about 14 years ago, became a Buddhist, and I felt I had to keep it secret. I thought, do I have to leave AA now because I don't, you know, because I officially don't believe in God, you know, because that's how it is in my faith. And then I started telling people, you know, just casually mentioning at meetings, you know, that I'm Buddhist for the reason that in case there's somebody else here who thinks like, well, I don't believe in a traditional God, so can I stay? You know, I just wanted to be that example, you know. And I have always been passionate about AA, and I've adjusted it to work for me because I always figured, what's the end result? Not the means. The means was almost immaterial, you know. But what is it I'm supposed to try to be learning here, and then find that, you know, find that place. Anyway, and I've also always loved the big book. I always have, and I traveled the country and did workshops like this, and this is one of the reasons I'm here. I like to see how other people do things. But I've done big book workshops as a Buddhist who doesn't believe in God, and as a woman. Wow. You know? I mean, I am really proud to wear that, you know. I really am. And I've brought thousands of people through the steps that way. You know, I've even worked for the Navy for a while and brought a whole bunch of real hard-ass generals and various things, you know, through the steps, you know. Wow. But anyway, I keep evolving. I want more. It's like I just want to learn more. And I haven't worked with newcomers well for a long time. Part of that is because I'm I'm just an alcoholic. My drugs are not part of my story. I wouldn't cross the street for drugs, but I would, walk miles through blizzards for a bottle. So anyway, that's not my story. So I can't share my experience if it's not, helpful. So I want to also see this weekend if I can find some tools to start working with newcomers to, work with them again, because I'm starting to see people come into my life, and I sort of explain, I don't really have time to give you, and then I don't see them again, and it's like, oh geez, I feel like I'm not being as effective as I can be. Somebody else mentioned that, So hopefully I'll learn more. But anyway, another tool to add to my toolbox here.
Wow.
Thank you for coming down.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I'm Susan. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi,
I'm a heroin addict. I'm a cocaine addict. All the things. One of the reasons that kept me out of the rooms for a long time, obviously was like, I didn't think I was one of you, but like the God thing. So my family is really religious on both sides. So, Mormon and Catholic, like, they don't really mix well, but they're both, like, very set in their ways, and I never, even as a little kid, never subscribed to any of it. Like, I believed in Santa, but I didn't believe in this man. I just never did. And then, so, like, when I was able to make my own decisions about where I was going to go, I would usually go because of a boy. Like, I wouldn't really believe it. I would try to believe it. I would want to believe it because they believed it. But then I never found anything. And then, until dope. And then I found God. And then, so much God. And then, God left. And then, so I came into these rooms broken and pissed off, and to the wives, all the things in the book, I was just like, I can't fucking do this. There's no way, like the God thing. I'm a little over 4 years sober, and I still, like, have an issue with saying God. I will not say the Lord's Prayer. I just won't, because it's something that, I don't disrespectfully, like protest it. I just stand quietly. Because it's something that I was, like, forced to do, like, growing up, and, like, I don't have a connection with it. I feel like it's too religious for what we're doing. And it's funny, like, I never thought I was out about being agnostic or atheist. Like, I always kind of teeter. But then I got asked to speak at this retreat on being an agnostic, and I was like, I guess it is pretty obvious in my beliefs. Because I speak at, I've been speaking at a lot of young people's meetings, and it's just a thing. Everybody's like the God thing for them. But there's also a lot of believers in the groups, and it's really funny to watch the dynamic, because as much as we think that we're persecuted or thought differently of because we don't believe in this, like, deity, it's like on the same side, like Christians, Mormons, Muslims, like, they get the same shit from us because they have this concept. And so it's like, I guess after hearing everybody share, it would be nice to just sit here and listen and just hear everything, like the traditions, everything from a workshop perspective, and just try to see, like, how it can all come together, because I don't think there should be, like, a divide or a difference, or we should have to have different meetings, because this isn't a religious foundation. This is all of us trying to help each other, and that could be the God concept, and, like, it doesn't matter what it's called. It's about helping another addict or alcoholic and working with people so we can stay healthy too. I don't know. So I haven't read your book. I hadn't even heard of it until this weekend, but, like, my sponsor's like, you should come to this retreat. So I'm like, okay, sure, because I do things that I'm suggested to do most of the time. So
good sponsor.
Get that girl a book.
No, not that part.
I'll get a book. I like reading. I love reading. I like learning and absorbing. And I majored in philosophy in college because of the same thing. Like, I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I could probably go to law school with this degree anyways. I ended up on heroin, so it didn't work out. Same thing, speaking, and now I know I don't have to. I don't have to. It is what it is. I'm cool with that. Yes.
I'm Stephanie. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
Hi, Stephanie.
so when I was coming up on about 15, so let me backtrack. So in the beginning, God created me as an alcoholic and an addict. Step 2 and 3 kicked my ass, and it kept me out for a long time because I didn't think I could get past the whole God thing. And I was a proud atheist when I got here. Enough cocaine, I would tell you all about it. And I kept hearing that I had to put aside old ideals, and that scared me because, but you get beaten enough to a sense of reasonableness, and you start to think, okay, whatever. But fortunately, I had people in my life. I had early sponsorship, that helped me see that I still had a seat in these rooms, and that I still belonged, and that I could still stay sober and have a fulfilling spiritual life as a non-believer. And that was mind-blowing for me. And then I also found CA. And CA is a lot, at least in Phoenix, and it's a huge fellowship in Phoenix. It's a lot more all-inclusive, not only of what your drug of choice is, but what your belief of choice is. And that felt like home. And I got sober in AA, and I have a special place in my heart for AA, but it just seems easier, right, in CA. And because you got all these young kids coming into CA, man, and they have no connection with God. They weren't raised that way. They have no connection with God. It's like the generation younger than I am. And so they're just trying to figure out how to stay sober and keep a needle out of their arm. They don't give a shit about who, what, why, where, right? But I was coming up on 15 years, and I realized the only real conversations I could have about being an atheist in the program was with my sponsor, which is an amazing gift because I had that one person, and we would sit and we would talk about that and we would relate. But everything I read, whether it was the book, and every time I was at a meeting, I had to pass it all through this filter of non-belief so that it could hit my heart. And it was work. It is work, it's take, and it gets easier over time, right? And you're not wrestled by the words God or whatever. But you have to work at it. You have to rewrite the prayers so they hit your heart. You have to, and so about 15 years I went on this seeking journey, and I'm like, I would want to find more people, more atheists who are spiritual out in the world. And so I ended up at this at a convention in Austin for the American Atheists. They are not a spiritual lot. You know anything about that group? They have a fucking agenda, and it's not spirituality. And I'm sitting and I'm like, I don't belong here. They have a cause. I've already got a cause. I have to stay sober and help other people get sober. And so I backed out of that, and I was so broken. I was so bummed. So I started going on Amazon, and I had been doing this every couple years. I would put in Amazon or put in Google spiritual atheism. And this last time, a couple years ago, Joe's book came up. Myra Hornbacher's book came up. And so that's waiting. Waiting.
Yeah, she's such a
Well, I would buy them by the box and hand them out. You know what I mean? It's changed so many people's lives because people would read your book and read Waiting, and they'd go, their worlds would collide. And when I went to that conference 2 years ago in Santa Monica, I just wept because the two things that were the most important to me were in one place and meeting for the first time in my life, and it was so overwhelming. My reason, I have two reasons, or what I'm hoping for to get out of this weekend. One is to spend time with my sponsor and my sponsie. That to me is first and foremost. 3 generations. 3 generations of non-believers. That's first and foremost to me. But it's always about enriching my spirituality, enriching my program, and how can I more effectively bring the message to the still suffering alcoholic and addict. some of them are right in the rooms, right? People who are like me, who have been searching for their voice in recovery. And I do talk about being an atheist from the podium, and it isn't because I'm trying to be different or stir up shit or any of that other stuff. It's because there are people out there that need to know that you can get here and stay here. I just celebrated 17 years ago, 2 days ago, and that is crazy to me in and of itself, but to be able to do it as an atheist, and like, people say that she's the most spiritual woman they know, and she's a non-believer, and I think that's beautiful. Like, I want to be that person, right? I'm so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, I have so much gratitude, and I just want to make it better and easier for the people that are like us that struggle. Not to be different, but so that we can be more inclusive. I just think it's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Joe, for being here. It's a great gift for us. I'll pass.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda. I'll talk at it. And thank you, yes, for being here and for setting this up today. And, I feel so lucky because I had already, the thing that really, really hit home when I came in here was to thine own self be true. So I knew that I knew that in my addiction I was so phony and dishonest, and I hated myself so much for it. So I knew that I wanted to be honest, and I came in, I've been an atheist since I was 14 years old. I knew that I didn't believe in God. So I'm not agnostic. I don't believe there's a supreme being. I'm an existentialist. So I came in, and it was scary because I am very low bottom, and I'm one of the most independent, self-reliant suckers I've ever met. I kept taking care of myself. I came from living in the streets to raising my child, taking care of myself on my own all my life. And now this disease, I'm devastated. And so I knew I needed help, and I came in, and it scared me. I wasn't against God. And so for 2 years, I was totally open. I don't believe in God, but I would ask people questions, right? Like, why do you believe in God? How do you, because I'm trying to learn. Maybe I'm okay with saying I've been wrong all these years, because something's really been wrong. But it just never registered. It never made sense. I don't personally get that things happen for a reason. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't hit. But after about 2 years, I went, wait a minute. I still have not come to believe in a, supreme being or all that stuff, and I'm so sober. I don't even have to try that anymore. I don't have to do that. But I've always been honest about it to give other people like me hope. Because I'll tell you, if I had heard, you better get God or you're going to die, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. I would be dead. Because I couldn't help that I did. I've been a vegetarian for 51 years. And I have lived with accepting that other people, when they eat meat, they're eating food. And for me, it's killing an animal. And I can't condemn someone for eating food. Do you know what I mean? I've lived with, I've been okay with we have to be true to what our own beliefs are. So I came in with that, and I'm grateful for that, because I want to offer people hope. I want to try to, take away an excuse people use. And I also want to be testimony for people who do believe in God, thinking that, so they can remember that we newcomers, because I say that. If I'd been told that, I'd be dead. So hopefully help them be more open. I have had an Episcopalian priest ask me to be her sponsor. I think that's beautiful. So, I've had these really good examples. My very first sponsor, Bible on her table, Catholic to the nth degree, but she never, I know she probably hopes someday I'd get it. That's okay. Because she thinks I'm wrong, but I think she's wrong too, about that belief. So what? But she was loving and caring what she wanted. She didn't care what I believed. She cared that I was getting sober, And so I've had wonderful experiences. And I was thinking when you said that about the first 100, I've been to several archive conventions that we don't have in Phoenix anymore because they were never well attended. And they didn't keep, but I have heard sons and daughters from of the first 100. Nobody did it exactly the same way. Nobody. They never did it exactly the same way. So they might have been a little more, inclusive and more open than what sometimes it gets conveyed as being. So, but I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I will say that when we started We Agnostic, we had some We Agnostics meetings in the very beginning before we went to that convention. And I didn't want to go to them because I thought it was the We Agnostics chapter. Yeah. So I didn't go to those meetings. That's fine. That's fine. I don't like that, so I'm not going. And so I will say that when I first started going to our, walk-in meetings, that so many people, they were so angry and mad and that I almost didn't want to go to the meeting, right? But I didn't have their same experience. But I just kept coming in and kind of saying the same thing, that I want to be a representative of love and tolerance and accept, I don't want to do to them what you're right? I hear condemnation towards them. And so I think what I've come to realize is, in the beginning they just needed to vomit that out, because I don't hear that now. We've been having it for a couple of years, and I don't hear that now. I hear more of the acceptance. But I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the 12 Steps. I love Cocaine Anonymous. I love my life because of this program, and I came here because my sponsee gifted me. I know. She's got some 8-step stuff to do, so we're coming up here. She's going to do some 8-step stuff. I just was talking to a new sponsee telling her that I was coming up, that my sponsee was taking me up here, and we were doing some step work. And I go, yeah, just so you know, if you want me to do step work with you.
New gold standard.
I am not above vibrating.
So I love retreats because I want more. I just want more. I just want to grow and expand. With the food here, oh my gosh, I might expand more than I planned.
Awesome, thanks.
My name's Christopher.
Hey, Chris.
I go by Chris, but I'll go by Christopher since we have another Chris. If you want. What am I? I'm exhausted. I just got off the road to Yellowstone and back to my home in Mountain Center, California. Here, it's in Riverside County, and then drove out here today. And so I'm tired. But what got me into AA was a desire to stop drinking. I stuck around for a couple of months about 25 years ago, and I got what I came for. I stopped drinking, and I didn't want anything else. So I left for 10 years and was stark raving sober for about 10 years, and doing some more wreckage without alcohol or drugs. And came back to AA on a date.
It's a shitty date.
I don't know, we had the lower expectations. But got a sponsor, did the steps Joe and Charlie style. Went to meetings religiously. And about when I started working with other guys, I told them and myself that I wasn't going to take them through the steps. I was going to do the steps with them. And so in my process of doing more step work, I started putting the prayers in my own words. I started putting the steps in my own words. Things that meant something to me, or I tried to make them mean something to me. And it's still an evolution of process. But I came across Maria's book in about 2012. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after that, I think, or was it 2000? When was the Santa Monica convention?
2014.
14, yeah, and that came up, and I went to that. And then your workshop came up here with John McAndrews.
Yeah.
And then your history lesson with the history lovers.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, third time's charm, can't hurt. And I've learned something every time. I'm a little bit disenchanted and enamored with AA and anybody's ability to change it, except on the grassroots level. A group of us did start a agnostic meeting. We started it around your book as one of the topics, and it's still going. It's 3.5 years old. Well, it came to me, I was trying to take a nap before I skipped dinner so I could take a little shut-eye before I came in. And my screensaver has a large portion of Facebook memes on it for my screensaver. Mm-hmm. And one of them is a picture of a family of meditators. I think they're sitting on a rug. It's mommy, daddy, and boy and girl on the back of the rug like they're in a car going some way, and the kid in the back seat's going, "Are we here yet?" And it kind of struck me, okay, isn't that like me? Isn't it like me? You know, are we there yet? Are we here yet? It doesn't matter if it's there or here. It's just that I want it over with, or I want somebody to tell me where I am, or where to go, or what to do, and all the time, it seems like, even in the fundamentalist structure stuff, it's been telling me all the time it's inside. Mm-hmm. It's been here all the time. Mm-hmm. So I just I hope. And I think probably if I got an awareness of that, I'd cease to exist or cease to be here all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think that also is a process, and wanting more has been, I think, I don't know if it's human nature or whatever it is. That's obviously why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. So good to see you again.
You too, Joe. Thanks.
Thanks, Christopher.
My name is Vicki, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Vicki.
Well, I don't have any expectations for the weekend, but I'm really looking forward to spending time with a group of alcoholics where I don't have to work so hard, at the resistance that comes up for me when portions of the Big Book are read or referred to. I got here 36 years ago today. I know, today's my birthday. Listen, when I got here, talk about change. When I got here, if there's a label for it, it's fundamentalist, born-again, evangelical Christian. That was me. And so I fell in love with the Big Book. I thought the Big Book was great. It was like, well, yeah. And the things that I thought were, there's a lot of people in here who really aren't, and I don't know how they're getting well, but somehow they are. I just started to figure it out, And a big event happened in my spiritual life at the church I was going to, and it rocked my spiritual consciousness. And I had a spiritual experience where I had to step back from that story that I was holding on to so tight. And realize it was a story. And it was scary, because that way of thinking is, if you don't think this way, you're really going to burn in hell. It's that's the way it is. Well, and AA has got a lot of that too. If you don't believe this way, you're going to drink, and that's hell, So it was hard for me to evolve and let go of a lot of that. And I have been able to do it and get to the point where I'm really, really comfortable not having a supreme being or my higher power necessarily. But, I've also gotten to the point where, I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe that is the truth. I don't know. My saving grace has been, I don't know. I just don't know. It's given me so much freedom. I've just been released, from having to believe anything. And so, I'm moving to Phoenix after the first of the year, and I've been going to a couple of the meetings out here. The ones I've been going to, they all end with the Lord's Prayer. And that tells me something about the meetings. I don't know what it tells me exactly, but it also, it's sort of like, am I going to fit in here? I don't know. But I do know that it would be interesting to be really authentic with who I am and where I'm at with Alcoholics Anonymous and see what happens. And I plan to do that. But I just want to say before I stop talking, I totally respect what other people believe about higher power. What I came in here with, I'm not kidding you. I mean, it was a comfort. There were some beautiful things about that I don't have now. And it's okay that I don't have them. I have something else. But I do not take that away from anybody who wants to have that. So I'm really glad I'm going to hear from all you. These stories have been fantastic. I want to thank everybody for really sharing from deep inside about who you are. That's been really good for me tonight. Thank you. I want to say one last thing. Just about Joe's book. My favorite part of your book is, I think it's the foreword. I don't know if you call it the foreword or whatever it is, where you talk about what's going to happen to Alcoholics Anonymous if we don't change. That you say we're going to become this group of like 100 little people who sit around with the book as our focal point, and that's what we do the whole time. We're totally irrelevant. We're like some of the cults we know of today who really aren't relevant to society. And that has really opened up my mind to the importance of being authentic. So, okay. Thanks.
I'm Randy, alcoholic.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Randy.
Glad to be here. Good to see Joe. I was in Austin. I walked out of a Baptist church when I was 18 years old. I had wanted to be a Baptist preacher and went off to college. Started drinking like my alcoholic father, whose drinking I despise. I started drinking. About 6 months later, somebody turned me on to pot. That was wonderful. 2 weeks later, I shot up heroin. Overachiever. Pretty much stayed drunk for 18 years. Got sober just before my 36th birthday. When I walked out of that Baptist church, I've never been back into it. And drunk or sober, I've never stopped moving away from the religion I was raised in. I've never stopped. I've been through everything that I think you can go through in your mind on, well, this is what my parents believed and my grandparents believed. Were they wrong? And, it's not about anybody else. It doesn't matter what they believed. And I don't have to judge whether they were right or wrong. For me, it doesn't feel right. And the more I study, the more I see how it came to be. And the older I get, the more I learn about human nature and groupthink, and the more I learn about AA history and how that came to be. 4 years ago, I got divorced about 6 years ago at my wife's decision after 37 years long-term marriage. I was 22 years sober at the time, and she had 23 years of Al-Anon under her belt, and she decided it was her turn to drink. But anyway, we finally sold our property in the Ozarks, and I never crossed my mind to drink. I jumped back into AA, more meetings than ever, but I got more and more and more tired of the God stuff. And Harrison, Arkansas is 12,000 people like Cottonwood. 222 churches, and a lot of controversy within the churches. So no two people believe the same thing, except that it's all about Christianity. Almost every AA meeting, and I was going to 2 or 3 a day, I would make the comment that as long as I'm a member of this group, we're not going to put a damn steeple on the roof. And we finally sold the property, and I left there in an RV. And I was 25 years sober, and I had this terrifying thought that I'm going to have to leave Alcoholics Anonymous. Mm-hmm. I just can't take it. And I didn't know if all the rest of the country was like Bible Belt Ozarks. It's more like it here than I would have thought it was going to be, because they do close with the Lord's Prayer and whatever. But anyway, I got a son in Flagstaff. I was looking for someplace warm because I'd frozen the year before, and I made it to Yuma. And I spent 6 months down there, and while I was down there, I met a guy, a one-person freethinker meeting named Joe. And I got to looking online, and I found out about this town called Cottonwood that had 3 freethinker meetings a week, and that's the reason I moved here.
Maybe the highest per capita in the world. Might be.
That was my introduction to non-religious Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's awesome.
And I'm so proud to be a part of it. And if we don't change, we're going to die, I believe. And I personally believe, somebody mentioned the sad atmosphere at Austin on account of what had just happened, the election and stuff. My daughter was with Hillary waiting to celebrate in the room in New York. And anyway, I tell my kids I'm sorry for what's happening in the world, but that I'm old enough to have seen the pendulum swing a few times, and sometimes the harder it swings, the way you don't want it to go means it's going to come back that much stronger. And I think the demographic that elected who we've got up there now are dinosaurs who are dying. We're not going to go backwards and be all old white Christian men of the country again. We're not. And I don't think AA is going to continue to be that way, or it's going to die. I think we're evolving, and hopefully the pendulum will swing back. And I want to be all inclusive. I really, really do. I have a significant other nowadays who is a believer and comes to our freethinker meetings, and she wants to go to the December 9th thing in Tempe, and she's afraid that she'll be made to feel unwelcome. And one way that I feel about that is, I don't want to meet you drunk in my lane. I don't give a shit what you believed in that kept you from being drunk in my lane. I just hope you got sober, and whatever got you there is fantastic. Right. But I go to a lot of traditional meetings. I go to a 7 o'clock eye-opener meeting almost every day with her. And I'm not under the table anymore. I'm out. And one thing I don't disagree with is on our coins where it says, "To thine own self be true." And if we go to a birthday meeting at the end of the month when it's my time of the year, I tell them I don't believe that I'm sober by the grace of a loving God. I believe that I drank myself into a corner, and I came here and met some like-minded people that were kind enough to share how they did it. And I'll say one more thing and quit running my mouth. I grew up surrounded by Baptists, and a lot of them drank. And at one time or another, I saw almost every one of them swear off and pour out booze and say, "I'm never going to do it again." And most of them were back at it in a day or a week or whatever. And the ones that didn't were miserable as hell. They came into AA eventually, some of them. They prayed the exact same prayers, and they prayed to the exact same God, but they got sober. What the hell changed? It was one alcoholic talking to another one was the power of Alcoholics Anonymous. Always was, always will be, in my opinion. It's what saved my life. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all. My name's Herb. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Herb.
I got started in this free thinking thing. I can't remember when it was, about a little over a year ago. But my home group is still a 12 by 12 study on Sunday mornings, and I'm here to learn how to better carry our message or our freedom of thought to the new guy. A few years ago, I started slipping it into my spiel when I'm talking there. I'm probably more agnostic than when I came, and then that's all I would say. But I just want this to be inclusive I kept hearing this 100 men and women. I heard some AA speaker one time say it was more like 40, but 100 sounded better. I just hope to. I'm dealing with forgetful. I'll just call it dementia. I'm starting, but I want to go to meetings and keep this as inclusive as possible. I try to tell new people there's many spiritual paths you can follow, and I think you have to kind of find one that works for you. And I'm not here to tell you how to do that. I don't think most people want to hear that. I think they want to be told.
It's easy.
It's just we're fortunate to have been able to be here a while, and thank you for your book. I'd say I read it every morning, but I don't. Sometimes I get busy, but I try to usually catch up maybe a day or two at a time. It really makes me think and a lot of good ideas. Well, that's enough.
Wow. This is the best meeting I've been to, and I don't know how long. Thanks. No, thanks for sharing from the heart. Like I am stoked. I've got what I'm going to do now is what I'll call the State of the Unbeliever Union. Just if you listen or read my sort of on and on blogs, yeah, I should be a member of On and On and On. I love just keeping it current, right? Like I can't read 164 pages over and over, and without wanting to blow my brains out, right? Once, twice, 3 times, great, right? But there comes what are you doing, Jay?
I'm gonna reboot it.
Kneeling at Adele? No. You were looking at the Adele thing. Okay. So yeah, take 2 seconds or 2 minutes, or grab a coffee or whatever. Oh, we don't have